Hunt reflection. To become a better hunter, it is critically important to reflect on past hunts to assess what went right and what went wrong. Looking back at all of your past hunts, when you have successfully filled your tag or felt that you have truly hunted to the best of your abilities. What are the top 3 things that made a difference for you on successful hunts? Luck isn't an answer or a factor to consider. While luck certainly plays a role in many successful hunts, 1,000 other decisions and factors were in your control. What are those things? Um, I've hunted my whole life. For someone who's hunted their whole life, majority of the time it was just, growing up, we'd go rifle hunting. I didn't archery hunt until the last 4 years or so. Rifle hunting, and it was usually a couple of days a year is all. If I was lucky enough to have a deer tag, I would hunt deer. Never killed a deer with my rifle. Didn't kill a spike until I was 23 years old, even though, again, hunting my whole life. Um, Growing up playing sports made it difficult, especially football. I played football in high school and in college, so it made it difficult to get out and hunt at all. The first year that I was done, after I had quit football or been done with football, is when I harvested my first spike elk. Um, I've learned a lot since that time. I've been able to put much more time into hunting and focus, and I'd say it is my main hobby. Um, the number one thing I would say is patience. Patience in a number of different scenarios. Um, I would say particularly, I'll start with this first point. So when I find animals and there is an opportunity to take a shot, uh, I can think of the first instance that I ever got to take a shot on an animal, was on a buck. I could see I was with my dad and he pointed it out and he said, we were just walking, kind of still hunting is the type of hunting we're used to. At least what people refer to as still hunting. Just walking through the woods quietly and being observant with my dad. I don't remember how old I was. I was probably somewhere around 14, 15, maybe even 16. I don't recall. Now I was probably younger because 16 I would have been playing a lot of football. So I was probably, yeah, somewhere around 14. Um, so we're, walking through this kind of clearing. There's some trees and you see the rear end of a deer and it's big enough that my dad knows that it's a buck. And he says, "Hey, that's a buck right there." And he says, "I'm going to work my way around this way." And there's kind of an opening to our right. And he's going to work his way around this way to, pressure the buck to move over to the right. And so I basically just stand and watch and wait. And I don't really know what's going through my mind. I'm guessing nothing. But the buck, instead of moving to the opening like he was supposed to, he starts moving towards my dad, direction that my dad is in, and comes to a little opening. And I just sit down on my butt and pull up and shoot. And I don't remember if I shot, I couldn't really tell where I had shot. It was either under him or over him because I didn't hit him. I could have, been thinking that whole time of like, where am I going to shoot this buck, or like walking through scenarios as I'm kind of waiting or trying to make a play instead of just reacting quickly and then taking a poor shot. Um, Similar thing happened. Let's see, this would have been 5, maybe 6 years ago. Um, I was spike hunting, again, still hunting by myself. I was walking along a trail early in the morning and was kind of on this slope. The trail's like this and the hill's going like this. And down to my left, down the hill, I could hear something behind some trees. So I went over there slowly to observe, just to check out what was going on. And I could just see 2 spikes. They're just, getting up in the morning and just hanging out. They had their head poked out. They weren't feeding or anything. Not sure what they were doing, but I didn't have a shot. I could just see their heads, and I decided to cow call with the reed. I cow call, and they kind of, get all excited and start to move. And I quickly pull up. I was using my dad's rifle. I quickly pull up and shoot standing shot and hit the spike really high. You know, I was shooting downhill. My dad's rifle sighted at probably an inch and a half high at 100 yards, and just hit the spike really high below the spine, but above any vitals, so kind of in a no man's land area. And he bled, and we've tracked him and just never recovered him. But similar situation where I took a shot that was rushed, that I wasn't, you know, thinking through the scenario and trying to be patient. So the first point of three things that made a difference for you on successful hunts. I guess I'm talking about things that haven't made me successful first. Um, but the things that have made me successful are, I guess I'm going to do both these answers in this same video. Let's just do that. Because I know the next one is top three reasons you haven't been successful, and they're both, I guess, related. So patience is number one. Um, Again, when I have been presented opportunities to make a shot, being patient with a shot that's given to me, but also walking through the scenario and like just slowing down instead of trying to, you know, it's really hard not to have buck fever or whatever it may be, like adrenaline rush. And what's really helped me to do that is to focus on making a good shot, not, ooh, that's a big, you know, actually having a thought that's going to help me accomplish my goal instead of just like, oh my gosh, he's right there. And, you know, having like a panic attack almost. Just thinking through of make and execute a good shot and what are the possibilities if he does this or does that and so on. So an example of this is this year I shot both a buck during the archery hunt and then a spike during the rifle hunt. The buck I killed, I didn't kill him until around 9:30, 10 o'clock. We know when the sun comes up around 5. I knew that he and a few other bucks were likely in the area. I'd hunted them the week before, seen them in the area, had blown them out of the area, and figured the next week they'd come back, which they did. Um, I could have moved on, you know, after a few hours not seeing anything and moved on, but I stayed in the area and was, you know, being cautious about how I walked and carried myself and being quiet, and did happen upon this group of bucks and kind of startled them. And they, you know, I guess this is another part of patience. I think animals, we, I always feel like, you know, before I always felt like I had to rush to make a shot because they were spooked, but I think they're reacting on us. So if I'm acting all, you know, jittered and spooked, that they're also going to be like kind of chaotic and moving. So what I've focused on now is if I stumble upon an animal, I just stop and I wait and I hold still and let them figure out, you know, if they need to be scared, if they're needing to run away. A lot of times what I've found is that they will actually, they'll run a little bit and then they're just kind of curious of like, oh, am I actually in danger or should I, you know, chill out, or what's the actual problem here? So this is what happened. This buck, there's probably 4 or 5 bucks together. Two are nice sized. One of them, you know, I kind of, I guess to give more detail, I stumbled upon him. I was there on this peak right here, and I was skirting around this little peak, this little knob, and they had heard me enough where this buck gets up and starts to kind of trot, I guess, away in front of me, and I just stopped, and he stopped and turned to look at me, and then just walked off down the hill. These other bucks, you know, saw him walk off, and they don't really know what's going on. They can't see me, so they skirt around this knob to this other side of this, I guess, hill or this cut. And a little, you know, just forked horn buck walks this way, and then this big buck is following him, just slow. They're not spooked at all, but they kind of know that I'm there. You know, they're looking around. So I ranged the forked horn buck and ranged him and knew that the big buck was going to walk right where he did. So I dialed my sight, drew back, and the buck stopped, looked at me, and that's when I shot and killed him. Had I, you know, been impatient or not able to slow down, if I was, you know, freaking out and being erratic, I probably would have made a really terrible shot or not had a shot opportunity at all. So I'm attributing that to patience, but specifically patience in um, just because you see an animal does not mean that you have to like hurry and rush things, that you can, just stay calm in the moment and execute a good shot. So that's number one reason that I haven't been patient or haven't been successful in the past, and the number one reason I think I have been successful now. I've been able to, the last 5 tags I've had, I've been able to fill, and I attribute a lot of that to just being patient and shot selection, I guess. Second, um, I would just say, yeah, spending more time, which I can attribute to a few things. One of them I think would be physical fitness and just putting more time and effort throughout the year to be more fit so that I can stay out all day. Um, Most of the hunting I've done has been okay, you hunt until around, like 10 o'clock, maybe 11, and then you go back and rest or go home or whatever, and, rest and then do an evening hunt. Um, I feel like that does a few things. One, this is the reason I wanted to get into backpack hunting, is because I don't like the timetable of, or especially even a group setting of hunting, what I'm used to. But there's always like a timetable of like, oh yeah, let's meet here and be here at this time, and people got to get back to their house, or maybe they got to work that day, or there's always the urgency to get back to camp, or there's stuff to take care of at camp. Um, all that kind of stuff, it just puts pressure to like, oh, I got to hurry, or I've got to be somewhere, or we can't go as far as I want to go, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm attributing this to, again, both reasons I have and haven't been successful in the past is just time, how much time I'm willing to stay out and hunt, not just giving up by 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whenever it is, and just trying to figure out, okay, now that it's, the afternoon, where can I increase my chances of killing something by being in certain areas or glassing or still hunting certain areas, and hopefully, um, finding game that way instead of just going back to rest. And resting is fine, but I feel like because there's the urgency or the felt need to go back to camp, like back to the trailhead, and um, rest there. I'd rather stay out and like have the stuff on me to take a nap or rest out there and eat, so that I'm further away from camp and other people. I can still hunt, when I'm done, eating or whatever. So again, I'm attributing this to having the physical ability to stay out all day and hunt all day, but also the preparedness and just willingness to stay out all day. And it really comes down to just how much time am I spending total actually hunting, instead of, okay, I spend the first, let's say 3 to 4 hours on a morning hunt and then 2 hours on an evening hunt, when I could stay out all, let's say 12 to however many hours, 12 to 15 hours. And I think that's helped me be more successful. So, like I said, the buck I killed this year was closer to 10 o'clock. Had I, decided by 9, like, okay, I haven't seen anything, I'm going to start heading back and be back to camp by, 10:30, 11, so that I could rest or take lunch or whatever. I don't know that I ever would have killed that buck, just because of that pressure to get back or not hunt as far away from camp. Um, the buck I killed this year was that way. The spike I killed last year was also that way. I didn't kill that spike until closer to noon. Found him in his bed, just me still hunting, walked up on him, and was able to kill him at 30 yards. Um, yeah. Um, so I guess the factor is time spent in the field, but I am attributing it to a willingness to stay out longer. And I guess that willingness comes along with physical fitness. So it's kind of like a number of reasons built into one reason. I'm just saying my ability to spend more time afield hunting rather than doing other things or traveling. So patience, number one. Two, again, this is both what's helped me be successful, um, on successful hunts, and in the past where I haven't been successful. Number three reason, I'm gonna say knowing my equipment, and investing in my own equipment, or just knowing it. It's not so much an investment. Like, yes, that's important, but more so than just investing in good equipment is just knowing your capability with the equipment you have, and your the I guess drawbacks, the downfalls of what equipment you have, and like what your limitations, I guess is the word I'm looking for, what your limitations are with the equipment you do have. So again, I said when I was 23, I killed my first spike. I'm 32 now, or almost 32. And when I shot that first spike, it took me like something like 7 shots to kill that spike. And it wasn't due to caliber or bullet selection. I think it was just the lack of, me knowing where exactly I was hitting, if I was hitting him at all, and how well I was sighted in, or how to even get a proper rest, that type of stuff. It was using my grandpa's rifle that I'd shot before, just probably not shot enough. Again, I was still a student at the time. I don't know that I had much time to go shoot, but I wish that I had. It's not a good feeling to make an animal suffer for that long, or to take that many shots, and you just kind of question, like, am I any good at this, or what went wrong, and how can I make this better? And it took me to buying a new rifle, a new scope, setting up and sighting it in, all that stuff, doing it on my own to give me the confidence to um, rifle hunt again, I guess. And having a caliber I felt was good, the bullet selection, and doing all that research and knowing like what my capabilities were. Again, I think I could have, I guess had a sour taste in my mouth from that spike. And I guess the one that I shot high in the back that I explained later was with my dad's rifle that I had probably shot before, but not, I don't know, I'd not right before that hunt. So you know, I didn't even, he just gave me the ammo, and it was just like, yeah, use this. And it probably could have worked out. I just, in that scenario, it didn't work out for me. In most cases, it probably could have worked out for people, but again, it didn't for me. So a couple instances of just like not having gear figured out and having shot enough, proper rest and things like that. I didn't, just wasn't prepared. So the third reason I would say is just knowing your equipment and having practice with your equipment, and then knowing your limitations with that equipment. Um, since I bought my new rifle, I've only had the one opportunity to shoot something with it, which was the spike this year. And, when I shot him, I guess I'll describe the situation of how this benefited. Um, I sighted my, rifle in at 100 yards, dead on at 100 yards. And my scope has a turret on it so that I can adjust elevation. Um, Most of the times I've hunted, it's been, I'm going to sight my rifle in at an inch and a half high at 100 yards, which should put me somewhere around a dead zero at 300 yards. I've never taken a shot out to 300 yards. Um, and I think what happened with that spike that I shot, 7 or so times, was it was hard to know exactly where I was hitting. I didn't have someone to spot for me or anything like that. Same thing with my dad's rifle. Is probably the same thing, sighted in an inch and a half at 300 yards. And just the drop, like I said, I've never taken a shot out to that far. And because the sighting was so high, and I had shot that spike high in the back, probably at 75 yards, um, the impact was way higher than I intended it to be. So the spike I shot this year was probably somewhere right around 100 yards. And I knew that, I didn't have to range him. I knew that because I was sighted at 100 yards, I just had to put it right on him where I wanted the bullet to go. And it did go right exactly where I put it. Standing shot, but I guess just I felt way more confident in my equipment because I had sighted it in. I knew the capabilities of my scope if I needed to dial. And it was also, I shoot left-handed. This is a left-handed rifle. I took a standing shot, First shot hit a limb, which I figured would happen. Again, this goes back to the patience thing that I had thought through. The spike was kind of behind some deadfall. There were some limbs hanging up, above, or I guess covering his vitals. But he was kind of on the downhill slope going over some more deadfall. I didn't think that I would be able to quietly get over there to get a shot and shoot down at him. So I took my chances to shoot, where I could see him still towards the top of this knoll. And it ended up working out. I guess I shot the first shot, hit a limb, and I could quickly, while standing, use my left hand instead of using a right hand like this. I was able to have a support hand, rack another round in, and shoot very quickly and hit exactly where I wanted to. And he died within 20, 30 yards. Um, so the third point is, again, both what's helping be successful and not successful is knowing your equipment, the limitations of that equipment, and having done it all myself, let me know, what those limitations and what my capabilities are.